I quite had a good day, but one thing sort of ruined my mood. That is, I watched an awful movie and I was about 20 to 25 minutes in. But I still watched the entire movie. It was awful. It ruined my day. Hey, how was your magic show? Quite good. What were you talking about? I was talking about an awful movie, which I watched. You know you could have stopped watching the movie, right? Quite simple process. Yeah, I mean I could have, but I was saying let's say 25 to 30 minutes in. And I thought might as well watch the entire movie. You know what? No harm, no foul, cause right. That kind of situation. You have fallen prey to a classic fallacy known as fallacy of sunk cost. Fallacy? Meaning an error. I thought you knew what fallacy is. I know what fallacy means. But what is sunk cost? I mean, watching a movie does not involve money. And I have certainly not lost in this process of watching movie. I have not lost any money. It's just fair enough. Consider this as an analogy and let me submit to you another example to further clear your understanding. What is your dream destination? My dream destination, Manhattan, New York. For sure, I love that place. Great. Suppose you buy a ticket to Manhattan and you get sick one day before the flight. Very bad sickness, vomiting, and a lot of trouble. Granted, not life threatening. Would you still go on that trip? I mean, would you? Yeah, I would definitely go on that trip. You know, obviously, who wouldn't want not to go in this situation also? Exactly. You will not enjoy the flight. You might not enjoy the trip. You will not be too sick to enjoy the view or the food. Chances are you might get more sick and end up vomiting and feeling miserable the entire trip. So you will lose more than going on the trip than staying at home. This can happen in a lot of aspects: jobs, relationships, career. Once you are in some path and have spent considerable amount of time in it and you do not enjoy it or see a future in it, you tend not to turn back and stick to the same path. Because as I said, invested a lot of time in it. Humans do that all the time because of loss aversion. They avoid losses in present even if they have to face more loss in future. Humans do not understand the concept of cut the arm to save the body. That kind of situation is very often. Wow. Thank you for this. I actually learned to quit. Even if I invested a decent amount of time. Maybe do something I actually enjoy. Speaking of that, you might be quite good with people's mind, seeing you're a magician and also know a lot about how people think. Are you learning psychology or pursuing some similar field, psychiatrist or something? Another fallacy, right there. Another what? This fallacy. What now? This fallacy is known as conjunction fallacy, where you assume that if I have a set skill, it might obviously be related to that skill. You assume that a magician and a person who knows a lot about how people think might obviously be a psychologist. The chances are too less, as probability and statistics suggest. Let me give you an example. Can you think of set of words with the second last letter as N? Can you? I think so. Command, descend. Um, frankly, no, sorry, I cannot. Can you think of the words ending with ing? Oh, obviously, running, cunning, sleeping, eating, drinking, walking, talking. There's tons of words ending with ing. So, do you concur that the number of words having n as the second last letter to be less than the number of words having obviously ing? More evidence, dude. Evidence suggested that, right? In our example, if we presume two words, command and descend, to have n as their second last letter and three words with ing at the end, we have to look at the fact that ing also has n as their second last letter. So there you go. More words have got added as more conditions get added. The probability of ing having more words are reduced. A probability of an event A with event B is less than the probability of happening of event A, as flipping and getting two heads in a row is less likely than flipping once and getting a head. This can lead to many misjudgments. For example, you hear a song on radio a lot and assume it to be famous, when that is not the case. This can happen to a lot of other scenarios as well. We tend to do this because of mental shortcuts, which need to avoid, and a lot of mental biases, which is quite long to explain. Point taken. I will try and avoid making unnecessary correlations. By the way, did you hear about the news of one politician being accused of being a communist? A person said that he has joined certain communist party and has been spreading anti-democratic propaganda. He will be on trial soon. A judge decided, I guess. The comment, ignorant as always. This is a classic example of argument from ignorance, assuming a certain statement that the person made against the politician is true because it has not been proved false, or a certain statement to be false because it has not been proved true. Ignores a lot of possibilities. The possibilities are that it has not been proved false yet, it cannot be proved true or false, or it's not completely true or completely false. In this case, the person provided no legitimate evidence that the politician is part of any anti-communist party or a communist party in this case, and still the case was accepted by the court. This is not how court works, does it? Accepting cases on weak testimony, and the politician has to prove that he is not guilty. Suppose I tell you aliens exist. Would you go off and search to prove me they do not? No, right? I have to prove that they exist. Similarly, if someone goes against the popular, well-established fact, they have to prove the same. So, in my opinion, the case should be dismissed. Or in that case, there would be random accusations at random innocent strangers, and people would have to defend themselves unnecessarily. Quite a tedious and expensive process, in my opinion. Makes sense. Really? Yeah. Come to think about it, you should be a lawyer. An interesting anecdote that I noted for past 1 week or so. I've been waking up on my left and see a parrot on my window. One odd day I woke up on my right and the parrot was not there. So obviously waking up on left makes you see parrot, right? That cannot be the reason for parrot coming in your window because correlation does not imply causation. Says who? False cause fallacy. It is where, when you associate one thing happens after another, but it is not necessarily connected. The parrot coming may not involve you waking up from the left. It might be a pure coincidence. Let me tell you a story in relation, a real life incident that put doctors into deep puzzle for decades. It is 1983 and various moms, right after giving birth, are falling to childbed fever and nobody knows what causes it. But one physician named Charles Meeks has a theory. He observed that abdominal inflammation comes before the fever. He concluded that may be the cause for childbed fever. Much of medical establishment supported his theory. Here you have to learn skepticism. His argument was based on false cause fallacy, where two phenomena occur together. One does not necessarily cause the other. The thought of inflammation causing fever is not necessarily true. Yes. Inflammation comes first, then the fever. So it might be fair to assume that inflammation causes fever. But by that logic, babies grow hair before they grow teeth. Therefore, hair growth must cause tooth growth, right? But we all know that is not true. Couple of things might be going on here. Inflammation and fever might be pure coincidence, or there is a causal effect different from what Meeks thought. Or fever could cause inflammation, or both could share an underlying cause which he might not have thought of yet. Here comes Oliver Wendell Holmes. Holmes noticed a pattern. When a patient dies of childbed fever, a doctor performs an autopsy. And when the doctor performs a surgery on the new patient, the patient often comes down with that fever. Based on the correlation between autopsy of few fever victims and new patient, he proposed a possible causation. Since there is no evidence autopsy causes the fever, with this correlation, he does not jump to the conclusion that autopsy causes fever. He suggests doctors are infecting patients with an invisible contaminant on their hands and on their surgical equipments. This idea outraged a lot of medical institutions or doctors who consider themselves to be infallible. Eventually, the doctor was required to sterilize themselves and their equipments, and the cases went down drastically, very low. Sometimes a flawed argument restricts investigation, and this will lead to some bad effects, as narrated in the story. So you have to always not link something because it matches your expectations, but investigate it thoroughly. I hope you learned something. Hey guys, I hope you learned a lot about these fallacies and about how things should work and how really everything is affected by these fallacies. These fallacies theoretically has ruined jobs, relationships, careers, friendships, and a lot of issues. So learning about these fallacies can help you get over your mental biases and prepare for something which which might help you in future. Uh, Please avoid these fallacies, and I hope you have taken something from this video. Thank you. Have a great day.